Rain had a strange way of following 12-year-old Zainab. But this wasn't the kind of rain that falls from the sky. It was the kind that falls inside. A constant drizzle of loneliness, silence, and the heavy feeling of being completely invisible. Ever since her mother passed away, her father had to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. He was a good man, but he was always tired, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. And Zainab, well, she was always alone. Every morning, she would walk to school with her head down, clutching a small, worn-out bag. At school, things weren't much different. While other kids laughed in boisterous groups, sharing snacks and secrets, Zainab would find her way to the farthest, quietest table in the classroom. She'd spend her breaks drawing flowers in her little notebook, filling the silent pages with petals and leaves, trying to create a world less empty than her own. The quiet was a constant companion, a heavy blanket she couldn't shake off. One stormy afternoon, just as the final school bell rang, the sky broke open. A sudden, violent downpour lashed against the windows and flooded the schoolyard. Zainab stood under the shelter of the classroom roof, watching as the compound filled with parents. They came with umbrellas, bright, colorful shields against the storm. They were like sheltering arms, their warm voices cutting through the sound of the rain as they called out for their children. It was a parade of love and protection. But no one came for Zainab. Her heart sank with each car that pulled away, with each family that disappeared into the gray curtain of rain. She watched until the last car left, until the schoolyard was empty and silent, save for the drumming of the rain on the tin roof. There was no other choice. Taking a deep breath, she stepped out into the downpour. Instantly, her clothes were soaked, sticking to her skin like a cold, wet hug. The water seeped into her bag, turning her precious notebooks and drawings into a soggy mess. She walked with her head bowed against the wind, each step a small, lonely journey home. Suddenly, a car slowed down beside her, its headlights cutting through the gloom. The window rolled down, and a familiar voice called out, "Zainab, get in quickly." It was her class teacher, Mrs. Halima. She was leaning across the passenger seat, holding out a bright yellow umbrella. Zainab froze. She hesitated for a moment, her mind racing. Nobody had ever rushed for her before, had ever stopped their world just for her. It was a strange and overwhelming feeling. She cautiously got into the car, dripping water all over the seat. "Where is your umbrella?" Mrs. Halima asked, her voice gentle but concerned. Zainab looked down at her hands, unable to meet her teacher's eyes. I don't have one," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. The words hung in the air between them. Mrs. Halima didn't say anything else about it. She didn't ask why or offer pity. Instead, she simply reached over and, with a quiet grace, wrapped her own scarf around Zainab's shivering shoulders. It was warm and smelled faintly of jasmine, a scent of comfort and care. Then, she did something Zainab would never forget. She got out of the car, opened the yellow umbrella, and stood beside Zainab on the flooded pavement. "Come on," she said softly. And she began to walk with her, holding the umbrella over Zainab's head, shielding the little girl from the worst of the rain. Mrs. Halima's own clothes were quickly getting soaked, but she didn't seem to mind at all. She walked slowly, matching Zainab's small steps, creating a small, dry, safe world for her under that yellow canopy. As they walked in comfortable silence for a while, Mrs. Halima finally spoke, her voice warm. You remind me of someone," she said with a soft smile. "A little girl I once knew. She was quiet and lonely, too, and all she wished for was for someone, anyone, to notice her." Zainab looked up at her teacher, her curiosity piqued. Did anyone ever notice?" she asked, her voice small and hopeful. "Yes," Mrs. Halima whispered, her eyes twinkling with a distant memory. "Someone did. Someone showed her a simple kindness, and it changed her entire life." They had reached Zainab's small house. As they stood at the gate, the rain now just a gentle drizzle, Mrs. Halima folded the yellow umbrella and handed it to Zainab. Zainab stared at it, her eyes wide with disbelief. "For me?" she gasped. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever held. "For you." Mrs. Halima nodded, her smile as warm as the jasmine-scented scarf still wrapped around Zainab's shoulders. "So you'll never have to walk alone in the rain again." From that day forward, something shifted inside Zainab. The change was first visible in her drawings. The lonely, single flowers disappeared from her notebook. In their place, she began to draw vast, blooming gardens. Her pages filled with vibrant colors, bright, alive, and full of flowers growing together, supporting each other. The yellow umbrella sat in a corner of her room, a constant, sunny reminder that she was not invisible. For Mrs. Halima, the teacher, the moment was a small gesture on a rainy day, perhaps soon forgotten in the busy life of a teacher. She had simply seen a child in need and offered a moment of comfort. She had no idea she had planted a seed. 15 years passed. One windy June evening, a crisp, elegant envelope arrived at Mrs. Halima's doorstep. She was older now, retired, and lived a quiet life. She opened it, curious. Inside was a beautifully printed invitation. It read, "You are cordially invited to the grand opening of the Yellow Umbrella Art Center, a foundation dedicated to supporting children dealing with loss and loneliness." Her heart skipped a beat. At the bottom of the invitation, there was a handwritten note in elegant script. It said, "Thank you for walking with me in the rain all those years ago. Your kindness became my shelter. And now, my shelter will become theirs." It was signed, simply Zainab. Tears welled up in Mrs. Halima's eyes as she held the invitation. The memory of that rainy day came flooding back, as clear as if it were yesterday. This story shows us a powerful lesson. One simple act of kindness, a gesture that may seem small or be forgotten by the world, can be remembered forever by the heart it touches. It can echo through years, growing and multiplying in ways we can never imagine. Because kindness isn't measured by its cost or its size. It's measured by the hope it plants in a soul who thought they had none left. A single yellow umbrella, a warm scarf, a shared walk in the rain. These things can change a life. They can build a shelter for one. That one day becomes a shelter for many. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that inspires. Remember to be the reason someone feels seen today.